Hello and welcome to another edition of Better Conversations. Who am I? Well, I'm Karnveer Mundre and I'm India's oldest continuous podcaster having a show since 2006. I'm also a LinkedIn world record holder for the most viral post ever and also the Chief Ideation Officer of Atharva Marcom. If you read the headline and clicked here, I thought this was important because so many of us have spent so much time online for so long that we've forgotten the art of real conversations. So, how can you be interesting? Storytelling is the key. What is storytelling in conversations? It's just telling someone something that has happened. That's all. But if you see any of the captivating storytellers or conversationalists or people at a party who have drawn everyone's attention to themselves, you'll realize that style is often so much important, more important than content. Take any of the greatest speeches, Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream, Nehru's Tryst with Destiny, or any of the memorable speeches, you'll realize that it's all about style. When people ask me, what does Atharva Marcom do? I could say that we do digital marketing, press releases, distribute press releases, make them connect with the media, liaison with editors, and organize events and openers. But instead, I simply say, we make people famous, which is factually true and is a little bit of intrigue and definitely gets a smile every time I say that. So if at your next event, if people ask you, what do you do? Don't just say, and you're a software engineer, don't just say I'm a developer. Go beyond that. What do you really do? How does it impact the society? Maybe you're bringing people together. Maybe you are saving lives if it's a medical software. Maybe you're creating relationships if you're working for Tinder. Maybe you're creating new lives. Maybe you are saving money. Maybe you're saving somebody a lot of money if it's a financial software or a fintech software. So go beyond what you do and go to what impact you have on the society. When you go into a meeting, make sure that you have a few stories ready. Like your job, especially if it's a very complex job or something which is not understood by all, then have a story which helps the layman understand what you're doing. Also, your week ahead, your weekend, your hobbies, and what you like to do, maybe what you like to eat, things like that. Just keep these stories ready in an interesting manner so that you can have something to tell people in a way which is like a story. When people ask any of these small talk questions in events and in places, and they talk to you, ask you for answers, they aren't really interested in the answers to these questions. They want something interesting. So give it to them. The second technique, the 1:1:1 method. This is attributed to Patrick King in his book, and I'm going to give the link of the book in the description. You might like to read it. It gives you some good insights into better conversation. A full story can be mini in nature. That's why it's called the 1:1:1 method. This method stands for a story that has one action, can be summed up in one sentence, and evokes one emotion from the listener. An example of this formula is to create a story like when I first met Akshay, I spilled dal all over his white pants and the whole room was watching. So for a story to consist of one action, it means that only one thing is happening. A story should be able to be summed up in one sentence. Otherwise, there's too much happening in the story. Finally, the story should evoke only one emotion from the listener. It could be humor, it could be sadness, it could be shock, it could be amazement. But only one particular emotion has to be evoked by the end of the story. The 1:1:1 method can be summed up as having a conversation or a story starting from as close to the end of the story as possible. So the third technique is the story spine. Think of the story spine as an expanded technique of the 1:1:1 method. Basically, the story spine gives a good format to the story with a good beat, so it flows very smooth. So the story spine has 8 elements, and here's how they go. And if you think that my shirt looks different because we are recording on a second day, because yesterday the battery went off, so it's another day. But starting back to the story, you start with once upon a time, the start of the story or the conversation. So here you must set the context and lay out the world that you're talking about and the characters that you'll be focusing on. Step 2 is every day. Here you establish more the normal and the routine, and often a character is growing bored, sad, or curious, and this drives the next stage of the story. But one day, and here comes a big event that changes everything. One day, something different happens that completely turns your character's world around. Because of that, there are consequences. The main character acts in response, and this sets into motion the main body of the story, the what happened part. Then, because of that, things get more interesting or frightening, and the stakes are raised, the plot thickens, and other characters enter a whole new world. A world of complications, comedy, drama open up as the story plays out. Until finally, does the guy get the girl? Was the world saved, or did the detective find out who did it? Here's where you reveal all, and the conflict is resolved, and the story is wrapped up. If your story is well constructed, your audience has likely been listening all the way right up till the end, and they're waiting for this big reveal and the final outcome. So they better not be disappointed. And ever since then, you close the story as you began it, with some context. You outline here what the new normal is, given the character's success or failure at the previous step. So most blockbusters follow this typical formula. So a flip to this rule would be to ask for a story. Have you seen, end of match interviews of sports people?
Do you think you were shot by 10-15 runs on this wicket, considering that 200 has been difficult to defend on this wicket in the past few games?
30 more would have been really nice. But also you have to realize it was half an hour early start, which meant, it was a bad toss to lose. We lost the toss when we started batting. By the time our first innings got over and, after the break when we went into bowl, the first few overs were fine. But after that, there was considerable amount of dew, which meant the spinners couldn't bowl, how they would have liked to bowl. It was coming on nicely and the ball got wet. So, the difference between the first innings and the second innings when it comes to the surface was too much. In the first inning, you would have seen there was a bit of assistance for the spinners. It was gripping a bit, but there was nothing much in the second inning. So it was quite difficult to score 190 runs. We are saying we are maybe 10 or 15 short because we have seen the second innings, but you have to also analyze the surface is completely different. And if you're looking for that 210, in the first innings, you may end up getting 160. And on a wicket like this, 160 becomes quite below par. So the only thing I'm disappointed about is the 2 no balls. Other than that, we tried our best, whatever the condition was, even it was not in favor of the spinners, but whatever resources we had, we tried to make the best of, the game.
That's the way they come out with having great sound bites, even without, if they simply asked something like, how was the match? They would say just good, but that wouldn't make a story. So they go and ask, more detailed questions like, how did the bowling happen at the end of the 6th over when, XYZ was at the crease? And they come out with more than decent sound bites. So that is one way in which, you can ask for a story rather than asking for a question. And that's how you become an interesting conversationalist, a person who people would like to talk to and remember for a really long time. In the next episode, we go deeper into how to have better conversation. So don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon so that you get notified every time we publish another episode and you have great conversations. Take care.